Start it. I'm gonna sync up the audio. This sounds so much better, dude.
We're up. We're up.
All right. Makes me so happy. All right, let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a different type of vibe, and I want you guys to know that we recorded 20 minutes of an episode, and then we're starting back over because the audio was all messed up. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to be here. I'm with one of my best buddies ever, Noah Villers, man. It's so good to have you here,
Thank
dude.
you for having me.
And
Thank you for having me.
I know we just did all this stuff.
That's what it's about.
But we're back, dude.
Hey,
we're
like
back.
I said, a setback is a setup for a comeback, and I think this is going to be even better than it was originally going to be.
Dude, I am all for that, dude. For those who aren't in the room with us, which is everyone else listening, Noah got me gifts, and I literally reacted to them. He got me a golf ball signed by Zach Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Which is like dope.
He's one of the GOATs. He's one of my favorites. Like he's not.
Yeah.
He might not actually be one of the GOATs. In terms of major level, but
He's a good guy.
He's
dude.
a really good guy.
He's a good guy. And then a signed glove by Matt Kuchar,
Cooch Daddy
himself, dude.
Yes, sir.
I'm honored, dude. Thank you so
I'm glad
much.
you enjoy it, man.
I actually, dude, this is gonna be better than it was before because I have a story. Basically, because I work at Firestone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so one of the things that I got to do is, I was the shuttle guy, so I would shuttle all the players to their villas and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'd be able to sit down and talk with them. And so Tom Lehman, okay, he won the U.S. Open a very, very, very long time ago, and he's a phenomenal player, but best of all, he's a Christ follower.
Ooh,
and we're
very
sitting
cool.
there, and we're talking about Christ. And so he said, Avery, on tour, we have a Bible study that goes every, I think it was Sunday. It was Sunday morning before they went out and played. If you wanted to come and join us, we would love to have you. So basically, before our big tournament on Sunday, I showed up early and we sat in the main banquet area room. There was probably 15 other professional golfers, and I was sitting there with, and we chopped it up about the gospel for an hour and a half.
That's so cool.
It was the coolest thing on the freaking planet, dude.
I'm not a golfer myself, but I volunteered, I think 5-6 years for the Firestone Bridgestone Invitational.
Mm-hmm.
I've been so fortunate. I got to meet a bunch of the high name players.
Yeah,
Bubba,
dude.
Phil, Rory.
Yeah, dude.
I even got a flick with Tiger Woods, bro.
That's sick, bro.
He wasn't very kind though.
So when we work at Firestone, I'm a caddy there, and they in our orientation they give you this all these tips and about the course and stuff. And so one of the things that they gave us was a Tiger has played there 16 times and he's won 8.
Yep.
Okay, and then also he's made $21 million from Firestone. So
He set the course record, didn't he? Or no, Hideki Matsuyama beat
correct.
it, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he shot 61 or 60 or something like that on the South course and stuff. But Noah, dude, it's great to have you here.
I'm
bro.
happy to be here. I've been thinking about this all week ever since we talked about it. I was like, I'm excited to sit down, chop it up with Avery, and
That's awesome, dude. So we met. You were playing basketball at Collective, and then I came up to you out of nowhere.
literally out of nowhere.
That's right. And then we just started talking, and can you tell the story? You're way better at telling the story than I am.
Dude, I was just in the gym.
Yeah.
I was fooling around with a basketball, maybe a soccer ball. You walked up behind me. Well, you walked past me with one of your buddies, and you were just like, "Hey." I was like, "What's up?"
Yep.
Introduce myself. You introduce yourself. Hey, we need an extra guy for the 3-on-3 tournament. You down? And I was like, I'm not Kobe. I'm not LeBron, but I'm down to play. And and then I got your number, and we've been texting, and then we linked up. I played with Troy Bolton all weekend.
And what he means by that is I have a Troy Bolton jersey that I wear,
Yes, sir. Go
even
Wild-
though I don't play like Troy at all.
Go Wildcats. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
right. Go Wildcats.
Get your head in the game. But no, we got absolutely demolished.
We were
won maybe one game.
We're not good hoopers.
No, by any means.
Yeah. The first game we played, we beat the girls.
Yep.
We beat a girls team.
Yep.
Barely though. It's and then our next game we got washed out. Those guys were hoopers though. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. And then the third game, also hoopers.
We
Nate
also-
Stahl, one
Nate
of your
Stahl,
past guests, bro.
the GOAT.
Absolutely just
Yeah.
shot after shot outside the three.
Yeah,
just
no,
knocking them down.
Just knocking them down. We lost, and like it wasn't pretty at all. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't just really ugly.
Yeah, that
and
second
gross.
placement game. I mean, we were done.
Yeah.
I don't think we even got a point off.
No, no, those guys were players. But bigger than that, we've been friends ever since, and I'm so glad to be here with you, dude.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, dude. You know, one of the things that we talked about, you love rock music, or like, am I calling it the wrong thing?
I do like rock. I do like
So I'm
classic
definitely,
rock.
I'm definitely calling it the wrong
No,
thing.
I wouldn't say it's the wrong thing. The category that I think a lot of the music I listen to falls into would be like jam music, is what the scene calls it.
Jam.
Yeah, and like whenever my Spotify Wrapped comes up,
Yes.
it like always shows like my top genre jam.
Okay.
And the
Notable
reason-
jam artists would be
the Grateful Dead, Fish, the Allman Brothers, Goose, Billy Strings, Humphreys McGee. I mean, I can go on and on and on. Widespread Panic. But I think the beautiful thing about it is they take so many different kinds of genres and mix it all into one. It's very improvisational.
Yeah.
There's a lot of classic rock. There's folk undertones, bluegrass undertones, country, even classical, jazz. I mean, really, it is a mix of one.
You love it, dude.
Dude, I'm so about it.
That's
I'm
awesome,
so
bro.
about it. My favorite thing to do in my free time is go watch live music, especially jam music. Go watch Grateful Dead cover bands all the time. I'm a Deadhead, but never been fortunate enough to actually see the Jerry Garcia perform live. So some of the old heads might have a little bit of beef with that. But I've seen John Mayer countless amount of times with Dead and Company, Bob Weir and the Wolf Bros, the whole shebang, man.
Yeah, dude.
So I'm
You're a
about it.
very like chill guy. Like, you know, I don't know if you guys can see on the camera. Noah is always barefoot, bro.
Always.
Always barefoot. Like even like when we're at church and he's walking around like barefoot at church, barefoot. Like, when are you not barefoot? Is there a reason behind that, or just like
Really, I mean, the only time I'm pretty much not barefoot is when I'm at work, and that's just because it would probably be inappropriate.
correct?
But no, there's no particular reason. I just don't love socks. They make my feet hot.
Really?
Shoes, I don't know. I kind of fell out of the shoe game a little bit. I used to be into shoes, but I mean, when I do wear shoes, it's my Birkenstocks.
Yeah.
Just throw the slides on. They're so easy to get on, get out the house, get moving.
That's hilarious.
And then, yeah, I think I walked in here barefoot today.
You did walk into my house barefoot, dude.
I drive barefoot. It's just, yeah.
Noah, you know, obviously we talked a little bit on the phone yesterday, and I want everyone to know how incredible your story is, dude. You know, I feel like you've had such a incredible weird perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like coming from I'm going to call it rock. I know you called it jam.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
Just so like, you know, I don't know if your parents love rock, and we'll get into all that and stuff, but like from a genre that usually is so, I'm going to say anti-Christianity, if that's the right thing. I don't want to like assume anything incorrect about, but I think from the outside, it's very like, you know, a lot of that stuff, that jam stuff, right? Like, you know, a lot of people think of like satanic stuff and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? And drugs and all that stuff. Take me back. Start me from the beginning. Where does Noah come from, bro? I've been
All right.
waiting on this.
Well, I was born and raised in Barberton, Ohio. And I lived in Barberton my entire life. We've lived in one house prior to the one that I live in now. I still live with my parents, working on getting myself a house. So, but I've lived there for, you know, 20 years of my life, 23 now.
Yeah.
But I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 9 years. Shout out to all my St. Francis de Sales homies. You know who you are. But I mean, I did the whole thing: First Communion, reconciliation, confirmation.
Yeah.
I was even in the hospital at one point, and I got anointing of the sick. So, you know, the sacraments were kind of like an important part in my life. And really,
I'm listening, I promise.
okay. Do I keep talking?
You're good.
Okay. Okay. Really, like my whole upbringing, like my parents were never super religious people. My dad was a Lutheran. My mom She went through the whole, I don't even know what it's called anymore, RTIC or something like that. It's a program that they do for adults that are looking to become Catholic. So you can kind of get all your sacraments at once.
Interesting.
And you have to attend classes and stuff like that. But even then, the household we weren't really a religious household. And still to this day, I would venture to say that my parents really aren't. They're believers, but they're not, I would say, like Christ followers.
Yes.
And we can break that down a little later. But going through Catholic school and stuff, I was an altar server. I was very close with the priest at our church, Father Blind, incredible human being. But he really solidified my my faith at that time. And I really looked up to him, and I for the longest time I was like, I think I want to be a priest. Like it felt like a calling.
Those guys are nuts, bro. I've so crazy story, bro. When I would when I first broke up with my girlfriend for the longest time, I would go to like this church by where we live. I would ride my bike there, and they have this it's like this little building separate of the church, and it's very small. I don't know what the actual name for it is, but there were like pews and whatever, and there was a Bible up front, and you would go into this building and pray. Yeah. And so, when we first broke up, I was hurting bad. Yeah. So I would go in and I'd pray, at this church by here. And so I was sitting in there, and the priest walked in. Okay. And so, we had an incredible conversation, and it kind of changed my life. I'm not Catholic, but everything he said was really awesome, dude. He just kind of like walked me through my pain and how Jesus can help me with that and stuff. And like, it was really cool. But at the end, I asked him, I was like, so like, you've really like lived a life of celibacy for like however long. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, but don't you like want to like have sex and stuff? And he was like, Avery, you have to understand our purpose after this life is so much bigger than we could ever imagine. And to place any value in any experience here on earth is unwise. Amen. I said that makes one of us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know some people that are in the seminary right now that haven't even had like a first kiss. Like, and really the thing behind that is, I mean, priesthood is a calling from my understanding. And for a while I thought I had that calling. But I mean, you're literally married to God. Yeah. I mean, like that is
no homo. That's like insane.
No homo, but like that is who you love. I mean, and I'm not saying we don't love him now, but like in the Catholicism side of things, like that's your marriage.
That's crazy,
as a priest. And but yeah, I for a while I thought that was my calling, and then soon found out that definitely wasn't my calling, just based on some of the choices I made, early on. And then I was like, well, I still want to be involved somehow. I still want to be able to, serve and be alongside a priest or whatever. So I was like, well, I'll be a deacon, because I soon realized that I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a wife. I wanted to have kids. Obviously can't do that as a priest. But as a deacon in the Catholic Church, you can have a family. You can still, help with the liturgy of the Word and the Eucharist. And I just thought that was really neat. So I was like, well, you know what? Maybe like I'll consider that. And then, I mean, as I went through 7th and 8th grade, I was like, yeah, that's probably out the window. Like, I don't, I kind of started losing touch with those things.
I see.
I was still an altar server. I was what they called a master of ceremonies.
MC, bro.
An MC. But I helped prepare things with the priest, helped with the liturgy of the Word. I kind of did all of that. And I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really cool, and it did help me grow in my faith. But something just didn't stick. Yeah. And then I went to a public school, and I went from having a religion class every single day for 9 years to no longer having that. I wasn't in an environment where I felt like I could comfortably share my faith. And there's just a lot more toxicity in public schools.
Yes.
Nothing against them. But I just, I wasn't really in that place anymore. I stopped talking about Christ. I
Yeah.
stopped going to Sunday church. I altar served for a little bit, but I found myself really only altar serving weddings, and that was because you get paid for it. So it turned into more
I
of like
see.
a compensation job kind of thing rather than doing it out of like the will of my heart. And then after high school, I didn't get bullied in high school,
Yeah.
so don't take it that way. But like, there were those popular kids that just loved to chatter, and like I would hear things, and I was really into fashion in high school, and I would wear some questionable outfits in high school.
Yeah.
Like, I would just throw that out there, and like I was always getting the like gay comment or this comment, and I was just like,
I see.
I just was so like
That makes
sick
me
of it.
sad, dude.
And like, it never really turned into anything. I never really hung up on it, but I was just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, that's not like, if that was the case, like I wouldn't care, but that's not the case. And now I'm just so carefree. Like, I couldn't even care. If somebody threw me that comment, I would laugh at them. Okay, like whatever. Think what you want. But that really kind of came with my heart transformation and my relationship with Christ, which we can touch on. But after I got out of high school, I got into college, did the whole party thing, experimented with a lot of different stuff.
You were an animal?
I wouldn't quite call it an animal. Like, drinking has never been a vice for me, and I can confidently say that. Like,
Yeah.
I never, especially my freshman and sophomore year, like I went out a little bit. I had the whole fake ID thing, whatever, but I didn't really like find anything in it. Not even like camaraderie. Like, there was no part of me that was like, oh, this is fun. I think it might have had to do with the fact that like I never went to a party in high school. I went to a couple parties at Green, actually.
Yeah.
But other than that, that was like really it. Nothing in the high school that I was at. But then my junior year of college, I met a female, and she introduced me to the whole jam scene.
I see.
Got me into the Grateful Dead. Her dad was a big Deadhead.
So you never like listened to that music before
So
you met her.
I was really into like rap. I was really into like old rap. Some of like the newer rap, like Lil Uzi and stuff like that. I was about. But I knew who the Grateful Dead were. I knew who like most of these bands were, but I didn't know like know.
And the
it.
Grateful Dead is like the little bears, right?
Yes,
The colored bears.
These guys right here.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so that's those are kind of the mascots of the Grateful Dead. But she really was like one of the first people that turned me on to them. So if you're listening, thank you. But still friends with her dad to this day. Actually, we'll probably see each other this weekend at one of the concerts I'm going to.
You're friends with her dad.
Yeah,
So
he's
you
a
and
really
her
cool
dad
guy. He's
still,
my
like-
clan leader on Clash of Clans. Yeah, so
So you guys are close.
I mean, we're not close.
I didn't know you were that close.
But he's a really good guy. Love the family.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's kind of when I had already lost my faith, and then I never really kind of like second guessed anything, and every decision I made based on that, moving forward was just like not a good one.
Yeah.
I did a lot of questionable things. I fell into a lot of substance use, just from powders to a lot of psychedelics. Smoked weed every single day. Literally lied and got my medical card for the sake of just being able to go to the dispensary, to get weed, and all that kind of stuff. So, really,
That's nuts, dude.
yeah, it felt cool at the time, but now that like I'm clear headed and like I've kind of transformed a little bit. It's kind of like funny to think about. It's like, wow, I really did do all of these steps. I really all paid all this money,
Yeah.
I could be so up right now if I didn't spend so much coin on drugs, truth be told.
Can I ask you about some of that stuff?
Yeah, go
if that's
for it.
okay. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I've never, at least like, I don't know about my dad anymore because I don't see him too much. But like in my life, my parents or my friends or whatever, whoever I surrounded myself with, if they got into those things, I would kind of distance myself from them. The only drinking I've ever done in my entire life is I just started drinking wine a couple months ago. So like before the age of 22, I've never drank. You know, I've never smoked, and not to like, you know, seem boring or whatever. It just it never really like seemed appealing to me. I will say the only time it's ever seemed super appealing is when was this? My junior year. I would go play with my buddies after school, and we would go play basketball. And so we're at this basketball court at Butler Park, if you're familiar.
Yep.
And so it's that first court on the left. And so this guy's got his vape. And the night before, I had this like blue slushy, and it was really good. You know what I'm saying? And so his vape flavor was blue slushy. And I was like, bro, does it taste just like blue slushy, bro? And he was like, nah, bro, like it'll burn the back of your throat and all that stuff. But that was probably the only time in my life that I was genuinely curious. And when it comes to like substance and stuff, the only time I've ever been like high or whatever is before I got my wisdom teeth out in the waiting room. They gave me this like relaxing pill because I was awake during my wisdom teeth thing.
Yeah.
Crazy thing. But I'm in the waiting room, and like I'm like laughing my ass off. I look like a psychopath.
Yeah.
I'm like going nuts. I cannot stop laughing. Like it was the craziest thing in the world. And I get into there, and like I said, like, you know, I was awake during my whole thing. They numb my mouth, obviously, but you could still feel them do everything, and it was nuts.
I had anesthesia. They knocked me out for that. Thank God.
All that to say, I've never been too big into that stuff. Have you? And you can say plead the fifth and all that stuff. Have you done like the psychedelic shit and all that?
Yeah. I haven't gone all the way down the rabbit hole, probably for the better. But mushrooms, LSD, MDMA, MDA.
And so when I hear people talk about it, they say they have like a spiritual experience, or they see like the leprechauns dancing and shit, or like there's like gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
No, absolutely.
Like people are like going nuts. Do you have anything like that?
So really one of the most profound experiences I ever had, I had with a buddy of mine. We wanted to try mushrooms for the first time. Yeah. We weren't super versed in how powerful they can be. Yeah. And so we got a bag of mushrooms from a friend. We were in high school at the time, and we didn't have a scale or anything. We didn't weigh anything out. We had literally no idea. Just like now I could confidently say like a gram of mushrooms to the right person will really tap into you. Maybe not like crazy visuals or anything, but it'll hit you and you'll know it. But now that I know what like 5 grams of mushrooms looks like, I can confidently say we took between 5 and 6 grams of mushrooms each.
And that's incredibly significant.
That is what they call heroic dose. Very, very powerful. And I remember taking it, and at the time where I was at in life, I was a very materialistic person. Okay. And I can confidently say that this moment in time changed my perspective on money and materials. Yeah. And I'm thankful for that. Not everything was bad with like substance abuse and use like that. Yeah. But I remember like I was wearing this fake Rolex. Okay. I bought it off of AliExpress. So
wait, when you were there, or like in the...
No. Like I actually had like a fake Rolex on, and I started really tripping, and like my buddy and I were talking, and we just got into this like philosophical talk, like what is money? Like what is the concept of money? Why is it existent? And you know, now when I think about it, I still kind of feel this way. It's like money comes and goes. Yeah. Like I used to want like a big house. I used to want nice cars, like. And don't get me wrong, like I still work hard for those things. Yeah. But like I will be so content in like a small little house, like out in the middle of the woods. Like I don't want a mansion. I don't want people to be like know where my house is because of how big it is or what I drive. But I just remember like taking this off, and I was like, why am I even wearing this? Never wore it again after that. Like threw it away.
Yeah.
Like I had like this necklace on. I took it off. I was like, I don't need this. Like, and like the visuals weren't like super crazy. Like we took such a big dose that like we almost, at least the way I perceived it, like we were kind of going in and out of consciousness. But him, my buddy and I, and we still talk about it to this day, it kind of opened up a realm for him and I that we don't really understand, like almost like telepathic, like telepathy.
Really?
I don't really know if that's what you would call it.
That's insane.
But like him and I would lose consciousness at the same time, and then we would wake up at the same time, and we would look at each other and we would say the same thing.
Really?
And this is not like an uncommon experience for people who have, you know, tripped together or anything like that. But yeah, and like I remember waking up at one time and him and I both go, "Do you have to pee?" And we were both like, "Yeah." So we went outside, we took a leak, and we kind of sat there and chopped it up, came back in, hit the couch, and like out again. And then came back up at the same time. And we're
That's
like
nuts, bro.
and like now, like I don't know if it's now, if it's just like if it's because we're aware of it and maybe it's always been like this, but that kind of maybe opened up like an awareness. But like we think things at the exact same time and we'll say them at the exact same time. And him and I will just be like, that was interesting.
That's
like
crazy.
So I don't know, you know, where the realms of consciousness lie, and if there are any, you know, other realms of consciousness. But that's probably been the most profound experience I've ever had. But ever since then, I've never done like such a intense trip, you know, with mushrooms.
Heroic dose.
It's always been a gram or two after that, just for leisure. Now I'm as clean as a whistle. I'm happy to say.
Good.
But you know, I dabbled in the whole LSD world for a little bit. You know, MDMA, Molly is what they call that. That was probably my favorite drug. It was just a lot of fun. It was so good to party on, because it was psychedelic, but it was also like a stimulant, so it would keep you up and you could kind of keep moving.
Sorry, I'm like an idiot when it comes to this stuff.
No.
Like,
I mean,
dude, I don't want you to think I'm like mocking you or anything.
No, you're good.
Because I
can give you the breakdown. I mean, Albert Hoffman is the synthesizer of LSD, which is lysergic acid.
Which means what?
Dithylamine. He was the one who created it in a lab.
Okay.
So April 19th, the day before 420, it's called Bicycle Day.
Yes.
So he synthesized it on that day. He dosed himself for the first time at 420 on 419. And he got so high that him and his lab assistant had to ride their bicycle home. So that's why they call it Bicycle Day. So if you ever hear that, that's kind of where that came from. But the drug is so powerful that it's active in millionths of a gram. So whereas like mushrooms or you want to smoke weed, like you weigh it out in grams, right?
Yes.
This LSD is measured by micrograms.
So it's incredibly strong.
Like 75 micrograms worth of acid could just, I mean, it wouldn't blast you off, but it will get you high. Like walls will be moving, colors will be crazy, sound will be different.
That's nuts, bro.
And then MDMA, this is, I think the name for it is 3,4 methylene dioxy methamphetamine. So it's
I trust you.
It's an analog of the amphetamine class. But yeah, so that was synthesized by Alexander Shulgin, I believe is the name. But yeah, that was kind of, I got wrapped up into a lot of that, you know, when I met this lady, and it was fun for a while.
Yeah.
And I definitely used it as an escape, you know, and I also think it was kind of like to fit in to the scene that I was now in. And now more than ever, I've realized how much I can enjoy the music without also having to enjoy the drugs.
Yeah.
Which is such a blessing.
Yeah, dude.
But the scene has really just changed my life, and I don't want to directly compare it to church in any way. But I think for me, church and what I call the scene, the jam scene,
Yes,
have changed my life for the better, and it's purely because of the sense of community.
Yes.
You know, going through high school and stuff like that, I kind of didn't really feel like I fit into that demographic of people that I was around. And then I came to the jam scene, and you can literally be whoever the hell you want, and nobody will say anything. I have met every, when I say every walk of life, I mean from the craziest to the most introverted walks of life. But we're all there for the same purpose, and that's to listen to the music.
Yeah.
Because you feel free when listening to this music. Same thing with church. When I was brought to Collective, I felt that sense of community. I could be whoever I wanted to be. I could be as big of a screw up or as perfect as I was. And nobody said anything about it, because we're all equally broken. We're all seeking something.
That's awesome, dude.
And
that's a very interesting comparison.
Correlation, right?
Yeah.
And I even had this conversation with my dad, and he's came to a couple concerts with me in the past couple of years, and he loves it so much. He loves that scene because it kind of in the same boat. Like, you can just do whatever you want, and I don't mean that in like a literal sense, but you can just be whatever you want, and nobody has anything to say about it, because nobody cares. We're all there for the same purpose, and that's how it is with church. We're all there to praise Jesus Christ, and that is our goal. That is our end game. Yeah. Just like at a concert, you're all there to see the music, and that's the end game. Some people might be there to get really screwed up, and if that's your forte, fine. Maybe you should seek other things, but who am I to judge? Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's really kind of where everything came from. Got wrapped up in a lot of the substance, and happy to say that I'm doing much better. Yeah. I haven't touched anything in a long time. And weed for a while was like my vice for a lot of things. And I think I did a really, really good job of ignoring it for a while. Like I was very persistent when people say like, oh, you're addicted to it. And like from a scientific standpoint, weed is not an addictive drug. And so it is something that you can become dependent on, but it doesn't have addictive properties like maybe like opioids would, where opioids actually attach to like a receptor, and your body like needs it to survive. Or when you're super deep into it, or alcoholics, they literally can die from not having alcohol after a certain extent.
Interesting.
So it's not like that in that regard, but it is something that you can become dependent on. And I found that as an excuse often. My mom, my girlfriend, you're addicted. No, I'm not. I could stop whenever I wanted, and I really could, but I craved it all the time. Yeah. And so, actually, the girl that I'm dating now, shout out Destiny. She's the best. Goat, I love you. She, I remember her telling me, how much of kind of like a deal breaker it was almost. And she even told me about, all the prayer that she did on it. Asking Christ, like, if this isn't what it's supposed to be, like, please remove him from my life. Yeah. And she had voiced her opinions about, my substance use. And, again, I would always just go back to these excuses. And, so I kind of started doing some praying on it, because I was a lot more present in church at that time. But we even spoke earlier, like in the past year, I wasn't like fully invested the way I am now. Yeah. And I had become a lot more fully invested, within just this past year. But I was still using, just not as frequent, but I was still using. And, after hearing her, say that, I kind of started doing some praying, some reflecting. And I was like, God, if this is not, if this is not what it's meant to be, then, if my use is going to prohibit something this great, like, remove it. Yeah. Take it out. And I prayed on that for a couple weeks. And, you know, I remember just talking to her and I was like, listen, like I've considered everything you've said and I'm working to remove this from my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't correlate it until probably a couple months ago, but every day I was smoking weed and I never had any weird feelings, never felt any sort of way. And like one morning I woke up, smoked pot, and I was the most anxious I had ever been.
Really?
I mean, shaking, like almost panic attack, like borderline panic attack. And like, I was like, well, this is really strange. And so I was like, well, I'll smoke some more pot, see like if that will, you know,
double down,
decompress that.
Yeah.
Smoke some more pot, felt terrible. Yeah. And like, I was like, this is strange. Never had this happen before. I was never one of those anxious smokers.
Yeah.
And so the next day I was like, well, I'm not going to smoke any pot, see what happens. Didn't smoke pot, felt pretty good. Next day, I'm going to smoke pot, see what happens.
Yeah.
Smoke pot, felt really, really terrible.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I think this is my sign. Like, I think this is
that's crazy.
This is
man.
to cut it out. And I stopped that day. And put everything into a book bag, and I haven't touched it since.
Really?
Now,
That's
don't get me
great,
wrong.
dude.
Like when I'm driving, if I smell it, if I'm outside and I smell it, the cravings like definitely like are there. It's sort of like a trigger, but like I just know, like in my head, I go, do I want to feel that way?
Yeah.
No. So I don't do it.
I see.
And I kind of use it as a challenge to myself. Like, do you want to go back on this? Like, would that be, you know, I've found so much more of myself and my capabilities in having a sober mind. And ever since that, it's just like, I can have so much more fun almost.
Dude, that's awesome. And I know like, I'm just sitting here listening because I'm not familiar with all this stuff, but I'm going to try and draw some parallels. So, the biggest thing that I've ever struggled with in my life is like pornography and lustful, whatever. You know,
huge struggle for me too.
And we've talked about it on this show. And so the one, you know, like you say that you go out and you smell weed and it kind of, you know, gets to you or whatever. Like, you know, when I'm scrolling social media, I think the devil works through that incredibly, bro. You know what I'm saying? I deleted Twitter and I don't think I'm ever going to get it back because that is seriously like the worst thing ever on the face of the planet. And so very interesting. What I would do is like if I was on Twitter and I would go through and I would see like an OnlyFans model that would comment or whatever, I would always go and block her, right? But since Elon Musk has taken over the whole platform, right? There is no like, that's like, you can't report that because it's allowed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, I would either go and like block it or report it and like try and like, and you might know what I'm talking about, like configure my algorithm to where it only shows me what I want.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the porn stuff would always come back up because you can pay for advertisements and you can advertise your OnlyFans or whatever. So it would come up and it would get me and stuff. And I think like, you know, the verse in the Bible, you know, I've heard a bunch recently. If your hand causes you to sin, then cut it off. You know what I'm saying? And I'm really trying to look at areas in my life where pornography like makes its way into my mind. You know what I'm saying? And I think Twitter was the biggest way that like happened and stuff. Let me ask you something. When you go to these events and concerts and all that stuff, do you get like the urge to get back into it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a really good example, my girlfriend and I, we went up to Michigan just a couple weeks ago. It was an outdoor venue. It was in Clarkston, Michigan. I went for a 2-day Billy Strings concert. And everybody, I mean, on the lot, everybody in the concert, there was weed everywhere. People smoking right next to you. I mean, and people literally tapping you on the shoulder. Hey, you want to hit it? And I then have to dig deep and I have to pull.
It's like looking you in the face, bro.
And it literally is. And I have to be able to have the willpower to say no. It's really nice having, somebody else who can not lean on, but somebody who can hold you accountable,
Yes.
which I know is a lot more difficult when it comes to pornography and stuff like that, because I've been in that battle. But like in that moment, like I wanted to say no, and I did say no, but I know if I had said yes, how disappointed my girlfriend would have been. And so knowing that, but then also just knowing how disappointed I would have been in myself after the fact, because I know that if I would have done it, it would have rabbit holed right back to where I had begun.
Dude, I literally like, and that's the biggest thing that I've been like telling myself is, after you jerk off or whatever, bro, I literally feel like a total piece of shit, bro. Like I feel like I feel disconnected from God. I feel like alone. I feel horrible. Like on days that I do it, and if I go out and like, do something after like social or go out into public, I find myself running away from social interaction and doing all this stuff. Crazy thing. This is like weird. Christian, if you're listening, bro, I love you. And like, please, bro. But like, I'm learning and like, this is just very honest. So my buddy Christian, he plays the piano and he had a piano recital. He's a phenomenal player. He's going to Mexico for, it's either 1 year or 2 years, and he's going to go spread the gospel. He's the man, bro. And he slays on the piano. Like he kills it, bro. Well, I jerked off that morning before I went to his recital. Hear me out, bro. Okay. Cause I know this is like mad out of pocket, but I went, and usually when I go out somewhere, I will talk to everyone and I'm kind and I'm outgoing, and like how we met, bro. I just came up to you and I said, "What's up?" You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, that's what I do and that's me. Okay. I get there and I feel this horrible anxiety, and I sit in the back and I sit all by myself and I don't talk to anyone, and I'm the biggest piece of shit ever after the recital. And Christian was great. He I want him to be on, and I think he's going to be on soon. He memorized 2 hours of music and just ripped it. And like, I didn't even stay to congratulate him because I wanted to leave so fast because I felt so guilty and so like alone. And like I said, I felt disconnected from God. And I just like, the thought that I tell myself now is like, Avery, like if you do that, right? If you jerk off again or whatever, you're going to feel that same thing again, and you're not going to be yourself. You're not going to be outgoing, and you're not going to be the good, nice guy that you are to everyone else. You know what I'm saying? And, one of the things that I've also dealt with, that I've also talked about on here a little bit, is like sometimes I feel like a total fraud. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll sit in here and I'll talk about Christ and my relationship with all that, and then it's like, and then I go and do some stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, those are the feelings like that, like I think about before I like, I'm like, Avery, wait a second, bro. Like, don't be a dork. Don't be an idiot. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I know it's like, I don't know. I had this conversation with one of my buddies, not my buddies, but this was a while ago. And he was like, we were talking about addictions or whatever, and he was telling me about how like, he's been addicted to all these drugs and all this stuff and all that, and and I was praying with him and stuff. And then I told him about my addiction with porn, and he's like, bro, that's nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like like that compared to what I went through, bro, like that ain't shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? Do you think there's like a big disconnect between, or like, are they just different, or like
they're different?
Yeah.
I think an addiction is an addiction. I think it is something that your body is telling you, like, I need this. When it comes to drugs, I think there is a physical addiction. I think, your brain rewires itself. Like I said, with opiates, it is a receptor that needs that in your brain. Alcohol the same way. I don't know that it's directly related the same way with porn. I've never actually researched this, so do not quote me. This is purely opinion. I would say it's probably easier to stop jerking off and watching porn than it is to stop using heroin. I can't speak on that directly because I've never been addicted to heroin.
I can agree with you. I've never done heroin either.
But I can say that it was a lot easier to stop jerking off than it probably was for me to stop smoking pot. And but but everybody has those battles.
Yeah.
Everybody faces those demons. And I don't think it's fair for somebody to say that one thing is easier than the other, because at the end of the day, we all have a story, and it's still very validated either way.
Yeah.
But I've been in the same boat in terms of, porn and masturbation. I'm don't want to say I'm happy to say it, but I'm happy to say that I've reduced the amount of porn I watch. And I mean, I remember for a long time, especially when my relationship with Christ wasn't very, strong, it was like every day after school, or multiple times a day, even at work. Like it was really that deep. Yeah. And it's disgusting to say, and it's disgusting to hear myself say.
But I've been there, dude. And all guys have been there, bro.
Yeah.
I bro, thank you for being honest with me, because I'm about to be even more honest, bro. Like you talk about at work, bro. Like I've done it at work, at school.
Yes, me too.
Like fucking shit's fucked, bro.
And I think at the end of the day, whether it's a drug addiction or whether it's a pornography addiction, it's the numbing that we're looking for. Numbing of something, or maybe not. Maybe numbing's not the right word, but the gratification.
Can I tell you what I think about this?
Yeah.
Is when it comes to doing things like that, like when it comes to like drugs or jerking off or whatever, there's always an outcome. Okay, yeah, double entendre. I'm the man. But there's always a result or something that you can feel that you've gotten to. Okay, and this is what I found in my life when I'm very productive, right? When I'm working very hard, or when I'm lately, like when I'm scheduling a bunch of podcasts, or I'm getting stuff set up for the future, right? I don't feel the need to go do that, because that want of purpose, right, is being fulfilled.
Amen.
Because I'm doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? When I get close to jerking off and being a total dork and idiot, right, is when I'm not being productive. I'm not feeling the repercussions of my actions, right? So I feel like that motivates, or that's a incredible place to go and get that, action outcome, if that makes sense at all. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I feel like now in my life, like whenever I'm not being productive, right? And this is, one of the best things I've heard is like, instead of running from your sin, you have to run towards Christ. I think it's all about where you put that energy, right? If I can take that energy and put it into something like the podcast, which is great, or reading my Bible, right? Or meeting with others and talking about Christ, like that's what truly takes away that feeling of like needing to get that instant outcome or purpose, if that makes any sense at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think obviously I'm not perfect and stuff, but like I'm starting to find that like when I'm doing the right things and I'm, making sure I'm still moving forward in life, I don't feel the need to go do that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
100%. I think that's kind of where like I've found the answers to, because I'm on the right path in life. And I feel like when I wasn't, or when I was questioning the path I was taking, is when I would find myself doing those things the most frequent. Even just like masturbation, like it's that immediate like outcome of, how can I feel good?
Yeah.
How can I
busting
literally. But then once you realize, that post-nut clarity that people talk about is so realistic. And especially now more than ever, having a relationship with Christ, as soon as you get to the point where you've gotten to, like now, and it's weird to say, and it's weird to say out loud, because when you think of it, you don't really like see it as like such a big thing. But like every time I masturbate and watch porn, in the moment, it's the greatest thing ever. The second it's done, I feel terrible. Like you said, I get anxious. I feel alone. I feel in a dark place.
Yeah.
But I always immediately pray after, because I know what I did was wrong.
Same, bro. It's like an instinct reaction.
And there's nothing.
That's so fucked up. But it's like,
and I'm not I'm not doing it because I know I'm going to be forgiven. I
Yeah.
do it because I'm genuinely sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm genuinely sorry because I let the devil take control of me in that moment. I mean, I caught myself doing it the other night. Like after I was like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Like I literally could have gotten up and cleaned the room.
I know.
I could have gone and done dinner. I could have built a puzzle, but instead I stroked my meat and I felt like
fucking
shit.
Choke
after.
the chicken and fucking bit the bullet.
And I also never really understood the whole thing there too. And I think it has to do with your relationship with Christ. Oh, I know it does.
What you mean?
Just with the way it makes you feel. Like when I wasn't when I didn't have a tight knit relationship or anything, and I was masturbating multiple times a day, I literally never felt any sort of way about it.
Yeah.
Cranked it out, got up, good to go. Like it actually
Amped.
was like, yeah, I'm ready to
Let's go.
Like I never
Yeah.
I never felt like
Convicted.
I didn't feel apologetic. I just was like, this is what happens. Like this is everybody does it. I don't know. You always hear, masturbation is a stress reliever.
Dude,
it is,
bro.
but maybe for different people.
This
because
is something we can talk about. Okay, this is fantastic because not only can we relate this to like porn and all that stuff, but I think we can relate it to drug usage as well. I think at the end of the day, we have to be accountable at some point. Okay, right? And you can talk about a million different things, right? I was watching this. I don't know what company does these. Is it Jubilee or something? Have you seen where these like 5 people sit down and they're on opposite sides of the aisle, no matter what the topic is, and they'll debate things?
Yeah.
Well, there was this one episode I watched, and this lady was like, these people that were celibate till marriage were on one side, and then the other side were people that were like pro masturbation and pro porn, all this shit. Okay. Like, what a fucking gnarly video idea, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's nuts. That's fucking nuts. And so they're sitting there, and this one lady that was pro masturbation, pro whatever, she was talking about all these health benefits that come from doing it. You know what I'm saying? Talk about like it's a stress reliever, and it talks about like whatever, all these problems it fixes. It like exercises your prostate is the big one I've heard.
Yeah.
So like if you don't, you're gonna like get prostate cancer or whatever the hell. And then the other people on the other side, well, they were all Christians. They were all believers. And so the one thing they talked about is they said, at the end of the day, like, I'm going to mess this point up, but it was incredible the way the one lady said it. She said like, if you're just relieving stress for now, you're never diagnosing the issue. So like, one of the examples that we talked about at Collective was like, if you have a volcano, right? And the top of the volcano is the biggest issue, right? And so if you plug the top of the volcano, right? If you jerk off for your anxiety and you plug that hole, right? Right?
literally,
bro. Damn. It'll start to spew out in other ways. Okay. So if you don't fix your heart, or if your heart isn't healed and you stop drinking alcohol, right? Or whatever, but that's one of the ways that you dealt with it. You'll start to be mean and you'll start to be angry. And there's always something to give in that sense. You know what I'm saying? But the one thing the, celibate till marriage people, they openly admitted, they said, look, were we celibate till marriage? No, but that's something we truly do believe in now. You know what I'm saying? And they said, at the end of the day, all these things that are temporary, they don't heal your heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, when it comes to, dealing with anxiety and you're throwing pills at it and you're sweeping it under the rug, there's a lot of people that say like they lose their emotions or they lose who they are. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, there isn't anything in this world that truly changes your heart or your want more than Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? One of the quotes from, C.S. Lewis is like, I don't know. I'm so bad at quoting stuff, but you'll get what I mean. Like, if everything on this earth is just a way to deal with something here, then the true answer or whatever has to be from another world. If that makes any sense at all, bro. I'm like butchering all this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
If everything, and that's just earth in itself, everything here is temporary. We are going to die. That is fact, no matter how much we love to hear it or hate to hear it.
Yeah.
We are going to die. But our end game is an eternal life with Christ, where weed doesn't matter, pills don't matter, masturbation doesn't matter, porn doesn't matter. What matters is the relationship that we have with Christ, and knowing that we will all be one in Christ in heaven. We will all be loved. We will all be in pure bliss, pure joy. The idea of joy is so raw to me, because happiness is what we experience on earth.
Yeah.
I think there could be moments of joy, but being in joy all the time is going to be eternal when we're with Christ after we die. That feeling, like I can't even like put my finger on it. I can't articulate it well enough. But like this makes me happy.
Us sitting down.
This conversation and being with you and spending time with you makes me happy. Being in my relationship with my girlfriend makes me happy. Seeing my parents makes me happy. It does not make me joyful. Joyful is something I experience when I am a witness to Christ. When an inexplicable moment happens because of my relationship with the Lord, is when I feel joyful. And that is more than happy, you know, and the thought of being,
because there's nothing that can take away from that. Right. You know what I'm saying?
There's literally nothing that can separate you from that. And I think that, I just think that's a really interesting concept. And it was actually an old roommate of mine that taught me that, somebody that went to collective and stuff. And when she told me that, I was like, I don't really understand. And we sat down and she explained it. And I was like, whoa, you're so right. I was like I never really experienced it until I was a witness to Christ. I don't know. I think it's a cool idea.
No, dude, I think like it's very, I don't know. One of the quotes that I've always thought about is like, if you're nothing without it, then you don't deserve it, right? If you've ever seen the first Spider-Man movie, I've talked about this. Spider-Man Homecoming and the new one, basically Tony Stark he gives Peter orders. He says, look, don't do this. Do what I say, right? And Peter disobeys him and does something wrong. Usual. And so they meet on top of this skyscraper or whatever. And so Peter's like, you know, Tony wants his suit. Iron Man wants his suit back. And Peter says, but I'm nothing without the suit. And Tony says, if you're nothing without it, then you don't deserve it. And I've always thought about that concept in the lens of Christ, saying, do I have to be something without it to receive Christ? And this is what I've thought is, that's the only thing on the planet that there is no prereq for to come to him. You know what I'm saying? Because all the work comes after you start to be loved by him. You know what I'm saying? And through that love that you feel, that's what motivates you to do better. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think your thought about, you know, when you were younger, you jerk off and then you wouldn't feel a certain way. I don't think you're supposed to, but now that you've found that joy that comes from Christ, right? That, you know, love that he shows you, and it's starting to change your heart. I think that's the point when people start to like you said, weed starts stressing you out or making you anxious, or like, you know, with me, like I start jerking off and I feel incredibly convicted and incredibly disconnected from God, and, you know, incredibly like not willing to go out and talk to people. And I think that like I will say with this process, I don't know if the Bible talks about it a bunch, but we talked about it a bit. Like, I think your heart changes a lot before your actions do, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it does. And I don't want to say like I'm an example of it by any means, but I can understand where it's coming from, and just in the regards that the first time, you know, that feeling that Josiah always mentions, like if you were feeling that pounding, beating heart
On your heart.
like if you're feeling that, like that is Christ talking to you. So the first time I ever experienced that
Yeah.
was at a collective on a Thursday. The girl I was with at the time, we had just gone through a really traumatic experience, not together. She had something had happened to her, and she had shared it with me. And I had felt the most amount of anger I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean, like, I could have pinned somebody up against the wall and literally done anything to them.
Killed him.
And felt no remorse. And I've never felt that kind of anger in my life. So I left. I went to a driving range with my buddy. We drove some golf balls. I tried to decompress, but the entire time I still felt that anger.
Yeah.
And then we got home, and it was time to go to collective. And I had asked her if that was something we were still going to do.
Yeah.
She had said yes. So we went to collective, and I didn't talk the entire car ride. I didn't talk the entire time we were there. I just sat there and I was present. And everything Josiah said was a direct message to me.
That's how it is,
and that's,
bro.
I mean, and it's such a cliche, and we say it all the time, but every single message he has just like punches you right in the gut somehow. Especially when you're going through something.
Dude, he's the man, bro.
It's incredible.
God, no, don't get me wrong. God speaks through him, but the vulnerability and just the way that Josiah talks about it, man, like every time, dude. And I will say, I go to Sunday service sometimes at Grace. It don't hit the same. I'm gonna be honest. Like, it just,
his dad.
It's so Jeff. Josiah's dad, he's the GOAT. Don't get me wrong, and they're a phenomenal family, and they're wonderful. But there's just something about Josiah. Like, there's something in him that just,
I think it's the relation that he has with us and people our age. Like, I think it's because he speaks directly on things that we are going through and things that we are going to continue to face and go through as we get older. That would be my assumption. I don't go to Grace on Sundays. I go elsewhere. I go to 539 if you're interested.
539.
Shout out 539.
Maybe I'll pull up.
It's incredible.
I love
cool. The pastor.
Yeah.
We're actually getting a new building right now. So that's really exciting. But man, like it was the first time I ever cried at church. Like, when we got there after the message, we were worshiping, and like I sat with my head in my hands and I sobbed like a child. I mean, like, uncontrollably. And it was the most present Christ has ever felt with me. Even growing up, in the Catholic Church and stuff, I never had a moment, like I never had this breakthrough moment where I knew God was there. In that very moment, it was like the most notable it's ever been, because I was just talking to him that whole time, like, how do I handle this? What do I do? Why would you do this? What does this look like now? And it changed my perspective on everything. And I'm not saying I got answers, but there was answers that revealed himself throughout time because of that very moment. Like, ever since then, I had just been locked in. Like, it was every single Thursday I was as present as I could possibly be. Like, I felt a desire now. It wasn't habitual anymore. It wasn't going because I wanted to, or like I needed to go. It was like I went because I wanted to develop my relationship with Christ further and deeper. And I mean,
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment for me. It's unfortunate that the circumstances had to take place to get me there, but
No, but that's how God works, man.
yeah,
I
I'm a
tell
true
you
believer,
what.
and everything happens for a reason. And yeah, it was a cool moment.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. I've heard that, you know, the last time I cried at church, it wasn't this last retreat, but it was the one before. And so, you know, I don't see my dad too much, and and that was one of the things that I was really dealing with at that time in my life. And post that, you know, I tried to reach out to him and it didn't go well, but it was one of those things that I have, excuse me, that I haven't, and I don't know if I've come to terms with this. I don't know what forgiveness exactly looks like, right? But I want to forgive my dad, right? Right. And so before the retreat, I never really felt that. And so Matt, the guy on the episode before you, it was the last night. So it wasn't the Sunday, but it was the Saturday night. And worship was incredible, and people were up there getting baptized, dude. And I'm standing up, and I don't know what it was, dude, but like I cried like not even a baby, but it was just such an incredible deep hurt that just came out of me, dude. And I cried on Matt's shoulder for like 5 minutes, bro. I'm like, I was like a little girl, bro. I was crying on Matt's shoulder, and he's like, Jesus will heal everything. Like, Avery, like, you're safe, you're taken care of. Like, and I just, you know, and then me and, you know, Nate Stahl talked about this too, of like, you know, his first time back at church in a while, he cried too. And I don't know if girls do this, okay? But I feel like this like dude guy coming to Christ moment, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, ever since I cried to Matt or whatever, I've always felt the presence of God with me from that moment on. Like, you know, when you pray and you feel that he's there with you, like ever since that moment, I feel like he's always with me. If that makes any sense at all. I don't know if you can relate to that or not. That's like really personal, and like,
I don't know that it matters, like if it's a girl or a guy or whatever the case is. Like I would venture to say that girls probably go through the same thing that we go through. I mean, at least I know at least of one or two who have like multiple times sat in church and just bawled because it's just that the presence is there. And we're bottling up so much of that emotion and that tension and those problems because we're scared to share them. We're scared to face the potential repercussions or the judgment. But then I think once we get into a place where we know that we are safe, there's nothing more safe than in the house of the Lord. Like when I say that I can tell him anything and feel, I can be remorseful, but I know that I'm not being judged. Like
I see. And then
I don't know, it was on one of your podcasts, it might have been Gamoff, said something about sitting across from the table and God, two chairs, and it's you and God, and he will listen to everything. He will not interrupt you. It doesn't matter if you did something wrong, if you are prideful, whatever the case is, and he will just listen.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does. He will listen and he will forgive. He will he will console you if you need to be consoled. He will not shame you. He will not, condemn you, but he will do what Christ does. And that's he just wants his children to be home. He wants his children to understand that we are saved, that we are okay, that we are loved, we are supported, and we are cared for unconditionally.
Yeah.
Eternally.
And you know what? I think that's where that cry comes from.
Yes.
Of like I don't
It's
need
relief.
I don't need to like man up anymore. I can be me and truly face like what I'm feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like, but I just, like I said, like I'm still navigating all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do think that like,
We all are.
whether it's an ex-girlfriend or whether it's a dad or whatever, the purpose that Christ has brought me, you know what I'm saying? And like just being reminded that like no matter what I do, like he's always going to love me. Like, and I've talked about this before. It's like it's a motivation, and like I feel like I can do anything. You know what I mean? With him in my corner. You know what I'm saying? And I've been so on fire, and I'm just, you know, I'm leaving for Florida pretty soon, and it kills me because I'm going to miss you guys and collective so much. Dude. I will come back and I will fly back and all that stuff, but I think, you know, this will be a time in my life where I'm really tested. You know what I'm saying? Because like, you know, throughout my week, because this is my week right now, is Monday, I'm at Gamoff's life group. Tuesday, I climb with all my buddies from church. Wednesday, I go and help out at Kent State's Bible study. Thursday is collective. Friday is climbing. Okay. Saturday is lift group, all right, through the church. And then Sunday is the day of the Lord. So literally every day of the week, I'm always like, you know, it's easy for me to see my purpose and feel that. You know what I'm saying? But when I'm there down in Florida, you know, there's not going to be all you guys around, right? And I kind of have to get to the point where like, you know, I'm like, I need to lock in a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like, not to like toot my own horn or anything, but like, you know, girls have always been like a big problem for me.
Yeah.
And like, you know, lately I've truly like told myself like, look, Avery, it's time to stop or whatever. And right after I say that, God always sends something my way. Crazy, bro. The day after I said it was time to lock in, this girl in my class, we're talking and she stays after and we're talking up top or whatever. And she's like, we should get dinner. And I was like, and in my head, I'm like, what is going on? and then I was like, whatever. And then it came up like she had a boyfriend, you know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
And it's like, and I think that almost tempts me even more. Can I tell you another story? I'm going to keep talking if that's cool.
Yeah.
One of the girls that after I broke up with my, high school girlfriend, I took a long break. And then I went to Stark State, and, you know, in one of my classes one day, this girl sat in front of me. You know, I'm not going to say her name or whatever, but she was so nice and so cute and so kind. And so one day I started complimenting her shoes because she would always wear like cool shoes. So I compliment her shoes every day, and we would talk. And so I started to like her, you know what I'm saying? Because we talk and do projects together and stuff. And we go out to her car and we're talking and all this stuff. And I'm like, we should go to the mall because we went to Stark State or whatever. So we went to, so like I wanted to go to like Chick-fil-A or whatever. And she's like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like, that'd be so fun. I'll invite my boyfriend. And I was like, fuck. You know what I'm saying? I was like freaking out, bro. That's what I'm saying, bro. That's what I'm saying. I was crushed. I was killing. But I was like, you know, fuck it, bro. Just because there's a goalie doesn't mean I can't score. That's what I'm saying, bro. So, you know, I keep complimenting her shoes. Finally, I talk her into going to Chick-fil-A with me. And we go to Chick-fil-A and we're sitting in my car and she's telling me about her boyfriend and how he's like a total piece of shit. Like, this guy's a total bum, okay? And in my head, I'm like, damn. Like,
setting this up for victory.
Yeah. Well, so they were together for 6 years, bro.
Holy crap.
And finally, we got together. One of the nights she came over before we freaked, you know what I'm saying? And basically, like, you know, they were still together at this point. I'm a total piece of shit, I know. But I loved it.
Yeah.
And here's why. It's because I felt like the fucking man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it was like, oh, you got a dude? Yeah, fuck that guy. I'm the man. You know what I'm saying? So prideful. So fucking prideful, dude.
Yeah.
And I was disgusting. And so, you know, long story short, she broke up with him for me, and we were hanging out and things were cool or whatever. But then, like, you know, we split up out of nowhere, and I was like, what's the issue? Like what's wrong? Because we were so good together, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And, like, one of the things that she brought up was she was like, I feel like being with you is like too easy. Like, and then she like compared that to Christ, which, all right, hear me out. I'm not trying to like say that like being like me is like a relationship with Christ, but she was like, you know, she's like, I feel like everything in my life, and she didn't have a good relationship with her dad or whatever, she was like, you know, I feel like being with you, Avery, there has to be a catch, you know what I'm saying? And then, because I would bring her around to Collective, and she was like, you know, I feel like when I'm at Collective and I feel the Jesus thing or whatever, I feel guilty because I feel like there's always a catch that's coming on and stuff. And then she dumped me, and then like 2 days later, she got with some other dude, whatever, bro. But when this girl came up to me in class and she was like, we should get dinner, I have a boyfriend, that truly tested me, dude. And I did tell her no, but like, you know, for like, you know, a couple weeks after, I'd be like fucking with her and like texting her and shit. But like, you know, the prideful thing, you know what I'm saying, would be like to go and get dinner and do whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I'm trying to put my pride to the side tenfold. And, you know, to kind of relate that to this and the podcast, a lot of people have been coming up to me lately and they're like, Avery, like what you're doing is dope. I love it. You know what I'm saying? But I still kind of feel like a fraud because I still jerk off and I'm still prideful and I'm still a fucking piece of shit. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm like dumping all this on you, bro.
No. Well, that's what this is for. That's what this platform is for. So, like you even said the other day, like, you know, getting vulnerable. Like you I think it says something about your character, and I think it says, in order to fix the problem, you have to know the problem, right? And I think you being able to recognize that kind of stuff right off the get, or well, maybe not right off the get, but you eventually recognizing that stuff allows you to then find an opportunity to fix it or better it
and invite Christ into that area of my life.
I think we all have our vices. We all have spots where Christ could be more present, and I think you're only opening up a door for that as long as you allow for it. If you don't want it, if you don't chase that, it's not going to happen.
I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think when it comes to, you can call it substance, you can call it pornography, you can call it girls, you can call it whatever, dude. Understanding that, like, more recently in my life than ever before, like, everyone tells me how great the podcast is, right? But for me, dude, it's been so incredibly transformative for me. Like people come to me and they tell me, they're like, yo, it's dope and whatever, which is phenomenal, dude. And I love it. But like the fact that I'm able to like come on here, it's almost like everyone else is doing me a favor by listening, because then I can, you know, like it makes me feel heard in this sense, which means I'm vulnerable, which means like I can invite Christ into that part of my life. And I think like with like, you know, substance and all this stuff, me and Gabe kind of talked about it before. So many people are looking for the things that Christ offers in things here on earth. You know what I'm saying? And I just, one of the, you know, things that I'm battling with now is just like, I want to do this the right way. You know what I'm saying? Because you see guys like, you know, Christian media that like do it the wrong way, where they're like condemning others and all this stuff. I don't want to do that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I know it sounds like I'm like talking to a million people, you know what I mean? But like, I'm just getting started and this is the beginning of my thing. But like, I want it to be raw. I want it to be vulnerable, and I want it to be real. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I guess like, I don't know, not to like ask you a question or whatever, but like, do you think Christ has like filled the void that those like substances filled? You know what I'm saying? Or do you think it's or do you think you're now focusing on like what's important? I don't know.
I was going to say, I don't know that that's the phrase I would use. I don't think any void has been filled in regards to that. Like, I think it would be more in terms of I'm focusing on what's important. Yeah. And I think generally speaking, that also just comes with maybe age and maturity and stuff like that. And we learn what's important and what's not. But more so than not, like my relationship with Christ has helped me understand that there's so much more.
Mhm.
There's so much more than getting high. There's so much more than jerking off. And it's so much more lasting. It's so much more, like there's so much more depth.
Mhm.
Just to the everyday life than doing those things. So I don't know that any void has been filled, but I would say that I'm trying to, I don't want to use the wrong words.
Yeah.
No void is being filled, but in having that relationship with Christ, I've come to know myself better.
Mhm.
I've come to learn how to fill voids that aren't toxic. You know, I've learned how to handle things in a more respective manner for myself and for my father. And that's not leaning towards drugs, and that's not leaning toward masturbation. Not that I still don't fall into that. However, it's a lot less frequent.
Yeah.
But instead, maybe going into prayer. I suck at reading my Bible, like flat out. I'm the worst. I pray more than I do anything, but I suck at reading my Bible, and I'm trying to learn how to gravitate more towards that and like being more present and intentional in the Word, because I feel like I did it for a while, and like it was really rewarding, and it did help me fill any voids. But we even talked about it at church. It's like I'm trying to relight that fire under my feet. Like I want to walk on burning coals for Christ, and I'm not currently as intentional as I could be.
Yeah.
And I felt very convicted about it, like because I do all these things, and I want the walk, and I don't know. Maybe it's my girlfriend put it this way, like. Or not maybe, it's just because we're not being genuine with it. And I'm trying to navigate that and figure out how I can make that more intentional. So,
but it's a slow burn, man. Slow burn. Noah, we're kind of coming towards the end of everything here. The camera's dead. So
I love it.
The camera always dies. It's the worst thing ever. No, if there's anyone else, the 3 people that are still listening, what they should know out there. What do you want to say? Sorry, what?
No.
What did I even say right there?
No, that's all right. First of all, if you don't mind, I want to shout out 2 people.
Please, bro.
Killian James Deeds Creek.
The homie.
Absolute goat. He has a new single releasing.
Shout out the homie. Let's go.
And I just want to put him on blast really quick. He gave me the date here, and
I met Killian for the first time ever, and he shreds his Fender Squier.
He's incredible.
That thing is sick.
He's so cool. December 6th, Killian James has a new song coming out.
Light it up.
Everybody,
let's go.
Please go pre-save it on Spotify now. He is the man. And then my girl, Sophia Fisher, she also has a new single coming out, and it's going to be out at the end of February or early March.
Shout out the homies. I love it, dude.
That. But if you guys could see me in video, I'm staring directly at the camera. If you guys could take away anything from this podcast,
even though the camera's dead, but please.
I know I didn't have a lot of wisdom to say, but here is my piece of wisdom. And it is that Jesus Christ loves you so very much. He died, hung on a cross, wore a crown of thorns, carried the cross, was whipped, beaten, stabbed for you. He will do anything for you. He cares about you, and he loves you. And no matter what you do can ruin that relationship with him. As long as you ask for forgiveness and you are attentive to him, you will be saved.
I love it.
That is all I have to say.
You're the man, bro. Thank you for being here, man. I'm so glad that we got to sit down and do this, dude. And like, you're incredible, man. And I want you to know, like, for every retreat that we go on and we lose, right? There's no one else on the planet that I'd rather lose games with, bro.
So about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been 2G1C. This is one of my greatest friends ever. I'm with the homie Noah. Guys, this is what life is all about kind of a different vibe we're going to go with here at the end, but like I truly am happy. Christ is moving in my life and I got it good. I got it good. You're the greatest, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been 2G1C with Noah Villers. We'll see you next time.
We love you. Peace out.